Well, hey.
Well, hey there. It must be Thursday, Friday, or whatever day we decide to do Family Matters. It's the one and only Kevin Peterson.
And the amazing Jay Staples.
Jesus. As always, we're sponsored by Kevin's home base, Jay Walker Lodge. So we appreciate
Yeah.
it. Hopefully, they're not too ashamed of us. And I've heard them acknowledge us a few times, so I appreciate their support.
Yeah.
I wouldn't support us, but hey, Jay Walker does. So we do this to the best of our ability ish. Answer fears or call them fears, whatever.
Sure. Create them. Yeah.
It's that kind of day. Like I've shut down for the day, so you caught me on an off day. So my brain isn't working. So you're going to just do all the work today, and I'm just going to be the pretty face, and all the questions come to you anyway, so I'm not resentful at that anyway. But there are two people on the show. But anyway, we'll just move on. But anyway,
sounds like you should write about it.
That came out of nowhere. So maybe. Geez, wow. Take some time to think about it. But
yeah, bro.
Keep the questions coming as always. We. Appreciate any kind of questions, whether you want to do it live. We won't mention your name. We won't do anything. We don't bring your question up on the screen. So we will. You will remain nameless. So anyway,
yes, sir.
We want to get into, I think, something you and I kind of battle or talk with. And kind of, doing Groundhog Day. Sometimes it feels like we're, going all. And I think you said it the best in our little pre-meeting, the 5 minutes before that we hit live. It's a long journey waiting for them to make changes. In reality, you could take some of that time to work on yourself and so forth. So I think families, it takes them a little while to understand that if the family themselves change and everyone within the family does their own work, the family dynamics no longer is getting healthier, and it should not hinge on whether or not Johnny or Sally stay sober or well.
You and I had a really cool talk a couple months ago, and you sent me this great clip that I posted out. And, we were talking about that, and, and I think it's, I said the hardest part for the families to swallow is when you or I, or, to tell them, look, if you're going to wait for him to change, you're going to wait a long time, and he may never do it, and we may end up saying goodbye. So it turns out he's not the one that initially has to change. You are. And they just look at you like, what are you talking about? I don't have a problem. And I'm like, well, you do, and it's him. But the thing is, the only way he has no incentive to change. And people only, you and I can talk about addicts and alcoholics because it was both of our experience. When the incentive was, oh, you want a place to live? you want food? You want us to help you? Cool. We'll be happy to do that. Here are our conditions. And that's the change in the family system. And there's no bargaining. There's no rationalizing or explaining or reasoning. And there's no like, why do you keep doing this? No. Stop. Just stop. It needs to be black and white. I love you, and here are the terms. If you're in, you're in. If you're not, you're not. And that's okay. I will respect your choice because you are an adult, but that's the hard part for the family, right? Because, then they come up with the what ifs, and so that's where we come in and coaching them through that process and saying, well, here's the thing. And this is something they said to the guy said to my dad 35 years ago was, well, he might just never talk to us again and keep doing what he's doing. And the guy was like, yeah, well, the thing is, he's doing that now, and he's killing himself. And so by watching him, you're actually being complicit, instead of saying, hey, we're not going to participate in this anymore. And if you want help, we'll get you help. But if you don't want help, that's cool, but you ain't hanging out with us. And that's what made the difference. I mean, that's really what made the difference. So,
and it's also, when we say kind of doing their own work or something, like if there's a struggle to implement boundaries or keep the boundaries or enforce boundaries, or if there is trouble around certain kind of really anything, then look into that and not trying to fight through it and try to, in a lot of cases, I think families kind of prolong the suffering and the addiction in a lot of these cases, trying to fight through it and so forth. If you need to take a look at parenting styles or trauma or whatever it may be, that's all going to come through. And I saw it. I mean, I saw it live within a family session when we had two of the kids, and the third one is currently in treatment, and mom and dad, and we're in the middle of a session, and then all of a sudden, there's two sisters, and sister is talking about, mom, I want more attention, and mom gets a phone call from loved one in treatment and just leaves the call, leaves our family session in the middle of her daughter kind of bringing up some concerns and so forth like that. And so thankfully mom came back, and I was, we were able to kind of talk through that as to what is it that tells you that when, let's just call it Johnny, calls from treatment, you drop everything, all the while your other daughter, two daughters here are, and mom's just like, I didn't realize I did that. All right, acknowledge it. Let's not repeat it. The daughters are at this point just fed up. I mean, they're doing family recovery coaching just to be, good soldiers, but it's obvious that they have been kind of the forgotten souls while Johnny's been suffering with addiction over the last 10 years. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, by the way, I've had that exact same thing happen this week where I was talking to them and they're like, he's calling. I'm like, don't answer it. We're busy. He's in treatment. He's fine. If it's a 911, I'll call you. And what are you going to do? Get on a plane and fly out there and in 12 hours take care of his broken leg? No, we will take him to the ER. We will, even if he relapses, we have a full plan or protocol. We got all that. And it's really interesting. Last night I had a guest speaker at our family support group. And she's a woman that's gone through all this. She's also a therapist, and her son was a Jaywalker alumni, actually works there now. And she was like, look, I want you guys to hear me clearly. I've been in your shoes. I know that you've been on, red alert and high alert, for the last X amount of years or whatever. And she's like, now that he's in treatment, take a breath. Don't answer the phone. Let it go to voicemail. These guys will call you if they need you, and I'm going to be clear. I'm not saying don't talk to your kid, but I'm saying every time he twitches, you don't have to jump. He's in a safe space. And you could see the looks on the family is like, hadn't thought about that, And I think that was kind of the cool discussion that she led of, I get where you're coming from, and I understand that this has been your job. And like I always say, the first thing I always tell the families is, I'm going to take you out of the, the addict management business. You're not qualified for it. And frankly, you're doing a crappy job, and so let's just put this in the hands of people that are professional. So you can go back to being mom and dad. He doesn't need an extra therapist or an extra case manager or a parole officer or probation officer. He needs mom and dad, and I think we've gotten so far off that we got to come back. And I mean, that's cool because
you work in a long-term place. So you raised something that it's an ongoing issue here because, we work with all kinds of different families, but a lot of some families, the individual is joining these family calls after 2-3 months of treatment or whatever it may be. They have up to 6 months of sobriety or something like that. And you just mentioned going back to being mom and dad. Do you, or maybe there's tips, or I'm just saying, what I find is sometimes families struggle with just kind of going back to being mom, being dad, being brother, being sister,
Oh yeah.
and all the talk and every time Johnny calls or shows up, mom's like, "Are you sober? Are you doing all right? How are you feeling? Did you go to therapy?" And I remember I've got two older brothers, and I remember being able to sit around the family table and having my brothers poke fun at me or sarcastically say something. And little do they know that, hey, that's our love language within our family. So, there's all kinds of, but how awesome that felt going from, are you sober? Are you going to meetings? Did you talk to, all these, case manager-esque questions, to just having my brothers poke fun at their other brothers. So do you see family members struggle just being mom, being dad, the lighthearted kind of, it doesn't all have to be case manager-esque questions?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, because, let's be honest, depending, if the person, even if the person's 18 or 28 or 38 or 48, they have completely forgotten. I mean, because they've been dealing with ER visits, police situations, lawyer situations, getting kicked out of school, da 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 da. So they, mom and just being mom and dad has gotten so far pushed back on the back burner that they're like, no, you don't understand. I got to do all this, and so yeah, we definitely have that issue, and so what we try to do, we had a team meeting this morning, and this literally was what we were talking about. Is we have a couple of families that have just gotten to a space where they don't understand, they can't take themselves out of the role that we're talking about, right? And so, some of the tricks that I use, and are not tricks, some of the therapeutic concepts that I use, is I'm a big believer in a book called Parenting Teens with Love and Logic. And, the first thing they say is, "Oh, he's 30. I'm like, "Read the book." And they read the book and they're like, "Oh, haven't done any of this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And that's why I want you to read it, because it sort of takes you back to a space of, hey, this is good parenting. Good parenting is being a consultant, not a manager. And consultants wait until they're asked, and I know that's hard for you because you can see the wall that he's driving into at 100 miles an hour. I get that. But that's something he may have to do to learn, and you can be there. And when that happens, you can look at him and say, "Wow, what a mess, man. That looks awful. You okay? Oh, wow. So how are you going to," and then when he looks at you, he says, "You got to fix this." It's like, "Oh, no. This is your thing to fix, but I love you and I have so much confidence in you and your abilities. And I know that you will be able to handle this. And I'm right here cheering you on, and I'm your biggest cheerleader, but I'm not doing this for you, and I'm not helping, And I think that's the hard part for the family.
It's what I always say is sweeping up and cleaning up the eggshells that have been, forever put on the ground, and everyone walking on these eggshells. Now, I did say, I did point out to mom and dad about walking on eggshells, and let's start sweeping up the eggshells. And dad, perfectly on time, said, "Well, don't worry about the eggshells. My feet are able to handle it finally." So, and I got a big kick on like how quickly our everyone's feet becomes so accustomed to walking on these eggshells. And what I hope is, you don't have to. Let's sweep up and get rid of those eggshells, and so you're not walking on said eggshells. Because everyone thinks, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And, it's like, when did the family become this, on edge and so forth? Like, if you're going to be mom, be a dad. Like, it's all right to punish him. It's all right to chastise him, whatever it may be. But, it doesn't all have to be about the addiction. And hopefully he's got other people, sponsors, community, fellowship, case manager. He's still in a treatment program, the treatment staff. You don't have to be all those case managers, probation officer, detective, private, all the roles that all these families are used to playing. So
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that is absolutely. And I'll tell you, I mean, we're talking about this also this morning, is that one of the other big issues, right, is that sometimes whoever it is, or whoever is the primary enabler, or the chief manager, they quickly figure out in everything that I'm teaching them, that I'm going to put them out of a job. And that's when they're like, hold on, I don't really want to do this. I'm not interested. And I'm going to get rid of that chat. That's just, I swear to God, every chat we get is some sort of weird, off the wall, nothing to do with us stuff.
It must be your followers. I mean,
yeah, it's got to be. Yeah.
Mine are wholehearted, just love them to pieces. But
yeah, sure. That's why. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I think that one was more for you than me. But
I tried reading that 15 times because I didn't know I was reading it right.
Yeah, I know.
I was reading it right.
Anyway, the resistance comes internally from the family system, or it pretty much starts with, let's be honest, the mom, because the mom is the one who's spending their time managing things and handling things. And the first resistance I get is, well, Kevin, you don't understand. That's just called being a mother. And I'm like, oh, I totally understand, but he's 35. He doesn't need you like that. That was when he was 12. He's 35. He needs to start learning how to stand on his own 2 feet and not thinking that you're going to rush in and rescue him every time something goes south. And you're also not his therapist. You're not his case manager, and you're not his sponsor. So let's detach ourselves from those roles. And you're not his problem solver or his fixer. And every time he calls and starts bitching and complaining, you can say, oh gosh, you should talk to your therapist or your sponsor or your peers or your case manager. That's not me. I'm here to be mom. Mom says, I love you, and I think you're doing great, and I have great confidence in you, and I know you're going to crush this. And that's your job. That's it. It's not your job to get in there and, we don't need any help on the clinical team. We've got that figured out, Yeah. And I get why. I mean, I'm not trying to be flippant with them, but I get why. But that's part of their healing, right? This is when I keep saying we have to change the family system. That's what we're talking about. I want you to stop being that situation. So,
yeah. I love when parents ask if he's not going to enough meetings, and then I can follow up as well. How many meetings are you going to? You guys, and there's so many support fellowships out there. Find a meeting, find a community, find a group that you can relate to and be vulnerable with, and trying to get the family members into support group, all the while they're head over heels trying to get their loved one to go to meetings. Here's an idea. Why don't you show them the way, and why don't you talk about the meetings you're going to, and maybe, just maybe, you find they'll start going to more meetings themselves.
Yeah, and I also tell them nothing terrifies an addict or an alcoholic more than mom and dad saying, well, I'm going to meetings and I got a sponsor and I've started working the steps, and they're like, whoa, hold on. I'm
17, 18 years sober, and what you just said just freaked me out. So I don't want you getting healthy, Kevin. There's no way that you can get it. I like our sick relationship.
Ah, man, I get it, man. I get it. And I totally understand that. And it's but nothing I've started to see a new therapist and work on my codependency and attachment issues with you. And, they're just like, no, I like those things. I like the fact that you do that stuff. And it's like, yeah, no, but that's part of my recovery. My recovery is stepping back and saying, I think you can handle this without my help. And let's remember, as we all got taught early on in our little recovery world, help is the sunny side of control. Because the truth of the matter is, when my parents said to me, oh, here, let me help you, what they meant was, get out of the way, I'm handling this. You're doing it wrong. And here's the message. When the parents step in and solve a problem, two things happen. One, you reinforce the situation where that guy's just going to be like, here, this is your job, not mine. Clean up the mess. Number one. Number two, it also reinforces the belief that he feels you think he's stupid and can't handle it. And every parent like, oh, no. I'm like, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your kid, 20, 30, 40 years old, that is like, okay, I want you to teach me how to do this, not do it for me, because when you do it for me, it makes me feel like I'm 5. And that's, again, family system change, not alcoholic addict change. So those are some big ones.
And struggle. I mean, it's all right for people to start scraping their knees and have some struggle and have bad days, especially early in recovery. That's going to happen. And you don't need families, I think, insistent on, trying to make every day just an amazing day. And reality is, like any one of us in life, there's going to be bad days. So
yeah, and we'll be okay.
Yeah.
We have an entire vast network of peers, sponsors, therapists, case managers, whatevers, and AA friends and everybody else. And the funny thing, this is the funny thing. When I first got sober in Los Angeles and I was working at USC, and I was starting to live a new way.
Is it?
Well, as Duke Rumley says, Kevin, generally when you go to college for 12 years, you get people call you doctor. I'm like, yeah, kiss my ass. You can call me doctor. When I was working at USC and learning how to be an adult at 27 years old, one of the things that I started to realize is that I had a bunch of people in my life that were really awesome people that I could go to and have conversations like that and get really clear-headed, clean, intelligent advice, as opposed to hanging out at the bar and having some guy be like, screw that guy. You don't know what the hell he's talking about. Let's get a drink. And a lot of these people, to be totally blunt, were very faith-based, had a strong religion system or a strong, health yoga system, whatever. These were people that took their lives seriously. And now that I was becoming, kind of a neophyte in the grown-up world, I found myself having relationships with people that I probably never would have, because, I would look at them on the outside and be like, oh, I'm not hanging out with that guy. He goes to church. But when I would sit and hang out with him at lunch, we had a lot in common, and not the church thing. I'm not saying AA is religious, but we would have a spiritual way of life and understanding of how we wanted to live our life. And it became super clear,
Well,
take that for what it's worth.
Families, they start doing their own work and seeing life differently and so forth like that, and not having the addict alcoholic be the center of everything. Because more often than not, there's always some forgotten sibling or siblings or spouse or whatever it may be. I see it all the time, that especially the moms, but it could be anyone, that their time energy is so dedicated to Johnny that, you see the marriage issues, you see the other issues with the siblings and so forth like that. So, and it's always easy to point out, like, if Johnny does end up getting sober, imagine all the work that you put in, the healthier family he's going to come back to and get reconnected to. So, put in the work, family. That's the hardest, easiest thing to do and say, though.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and I get where they're coming from. Hey, man, I'm the one. We had to deal with his crap for the last, X amount of time, and now you're telling me I got to do homework, and I'm like, no, I'm telling you, take 2 weeks and go to Hawaii and chill and just slow down and catch your breath and realize that we're not at DEFCON 5, everything, or whatever it is, DEFCON 1, whatever. Everything's okay. Just take a deep breath, but if you really want to, because they always ask, what's the most important thing I can do to help him? I'm like, you have to do your own homework, your own therapy, and your own recovery. You have to, because you will understand better what he's going through and how you can be supportive of that process. So anyway.
You're able to see enabling, you're able to see manipulation more. You're able to see all the other things, not perfectly, but you're able to see these things more clearly if you start putting some work into, and that's only going to help in the long run. So,
Yeah, and I mean, in my homework curriculum, and I created for Jaywalker, it starts off with, reading my book, reading Dopamine Nation, reading Brooks' book, You're Waiting on You, and these tend to be very enlightening, where they're like, oh, he has a biological brain disease. I thought he was just being a pain in the ass, and I mean, he is. Don't get me wrong, he is. And there's no get out of jail free card for having a brain disease of addiction, but because now that you know the problem, you got to get the solution, and we're presenting you the solution. But understand that he's fighting a battle that he will never win by himself. And the best thing you can do is put him in the hands of people that have fought that battle before and are willing to help him. So there you go. Well, Happy July 4th.
Happy July 4th. Well, I'm already off today, so you can take the rest of the day off because you brought it, Kevin. So I will call all your executives at Jaywalker and just tell them that you're done for the next week.
Okay, well, I'll be out there next week for family weekend. So,
I guess you don't listen to the suggestion. I told you to take a week off, and then see, you're just like a lot of the families we work with, So.
Yeah, well, maybe next time you'll fill out the PTO request for me.
I'm not good with documentation, so.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you, Kevin. We'll do this for our ability next week.
All right, man.